Let's take you to Nasrec now, where we're expecting that closing address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's listen in.
Can we go? Okay, no, thanks, National Chair. Through you, can we? Okay. No, thanks very much, members of the media. Before the President addresses you and delivers our closing address, just wanted to introduce all the officials and Comrade Gwen. You would recall that there's an NEC decision for Comrade Gwen to coordinate the work of the Office of the Secretary General. You all know her. Next to Comrade Gwen is Comrade Paul Mashatile. He has been leading the charge on the Secretary General's office, and there is the National Chair, Comrade Gwede Samson Mantash, and our President. President, I now invite you to come and deliver our closing address to members of the media, the public, and members of the African National Congress. Over to you, President.
Thank you, Comrade National Chairperson, Comrade Thabo Mbeki, members of the National Executive Committee and officials. As this is our last ordinary meeting of the term of this National Executive Committee, which was elected in December of 2017, we have been able to come together to reflect on extensive and thorough and productive matters that we've been in discussion over here, and particularly our work as the National Executive Committee. Over the past few days, we have had discussions on a broad range of issues, both political, organizational, and social, that impact on the lives of our people. We've had occasion to look at what should constituting the political report that will be tabled at the 55th National Conference. We've also had occasion to look at what will form the framework, or what is the framework of the organizational report that will be tabled at the 55th National Conference, as indeed the financial report as well. We've also dealt with critical challenges of the moment, including the renewal of the African National Congress and how we can continue improving governance in all spheres, and also addressing the economic and social needs of our people. This meeting has also had time to look at how we need to respond to the needs of our people, particularly as they are faced by rising living costs, which is causing a great hardship for millions of South Africans. Like many countries around the world, we are feeling the economic aftershocks of COVID-19, the extreme weather events as a result of climate change, with the rains now continuing to cause quite a lot of damage in certain parts of our country. And we're also feeling the effects of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. These are having a particular severe impact on the life circumstances of the 40% of South Africans who are living in poverty in our country. These families and communities are struggling to afford various costs, be they education, transport, food, and other basic needs. We, as the National Executive Committee, have noted the government's interventions to mitigate the impact of these developments. These interventions include the extension of the Social Relief of Disaster Grant until March of 2024, the temporary relief of fuel prices, the continuation of VAT zero rating of key food items, and the consolidation of our social security and protection system with social grants which reach around 18 million South Africans. This meeting has reaffirmed that we will continue resolutely to implement our program to tackle the triple fault lines of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. This means that we will intensify our work to transform our economy so that it can create more jobs through the implementation of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, including a greater focus on infrastructure projects. We are committed to maintain and, to the extent possible, to expand social security to protect the vulnerable and reduce poverty in our country. This must form part of our efforts to build a comprehensive social security system. The fight against poverty and the rising cost of living requires the provision of affordable quality basic services, including water, sanitation, electricity, and public transport. We also had time to reflect on the electricity challenges that our country is going through, and have urged our deployees in government to continue keeping this challenge that has befallen our people under greater focus to make sure that ESCOM does indeed move towards getting rid of load shedding. We will continue to prioritize skills development and education through universal access to early childhood development, improving the quality of basic education and strengthening higher education and vocational training. We will also continue to move towards universal health coverage through implementing the National Health Insurance and focus on improving basic public health system as the backbone of a future unified health system. We will continue to also focus on land reform involving accelerated redistribution of land and increased support for agricultural production. In framing our response to the cost of living, we are guided by the key mission of the RDP, the Reconstruction and Development Program, which says that no political democracy can survive and flourish if the mass of our people remain in poverty, without land, without tangible prospects for a better life. Attacking poverty and deprivation must therefore be the first priority of a democratic government. We also took time to reflect on the issue of black economic empowerment, and giving effect to this priority, the NEC remains clear that the movement remains resolutely committed to the implementation of broad-based black economic empowerment. We have noted that whilst progress has been made in empowering black people and women in the economy, the benefits of this process have not been felt by all South Africans. This means that we need to intensify black economic empowerment measures rather than to relax them. We need to continue our work to refine and focus our efforts to ensure greater impact and faster realization of the constitutional and economic imperative of empowerment and redress, a matter that is clearly set out in our Constitution. The NEC has noted the new preferential procurement regulations published by the National Treasury last week in response to the Constitutional Court ruling on preferential procurement in the public sector.
All right, those were live visuals there from Nasrec,
So
where the president is currently delivering his closing address. We seem to have re-established our connection. Let's take you back in there.
When contracting for goods and services. Contrary to some statements made in the public arena, these new regulations do not diminish our commitment to preferential procurement as a mechanism for economic transformation. The NEC has affirmed the ANC's position that broad-based black economic empowerment remains one of our key policy instruments. Through the NEC Economic Transformation Committee, we will monitor progress in the implementation of this policy and continue to engage with stakeholders, especially black business and black professionals. We also took time to discuss the Alliance Economic Summit. As the NEC, we have noted progress with regard to preparations, as further discussions will need to take place on this issue through the Secretariat of the Alliance, which will be held in a few days. We do believe that the summit will be critical to cement a common alliance positions on economic transformation and development and how to champion the interests of all South Africans, in particular the working class and unemployed. We also took a presentation on the Electoral Amendment Bill. We have had an opportunity to discuss this bill, which has been passed by the National Assembly. We have noted that the main objective of the bill is to make provision for independent candidates to contest elections for the National Assembly and provincial legislatures. The debate about the most appropriate electoral system for our country is an important part of our maturing democracy. It was also a matter that was raised in the State Capture Commission. The ANC has consistently supported a proportional representation system as the most appropriate system for our country, as a country that is as diverse as ours in terms of race, class, gender, political opinion, and regional landscapes that we have. Proportional representation ensures that every political view shared by more than 1% of the population is able to find representation in Parliament. The ANC also supports the view that any electoral system reforms must strengthen the accountability of public representatives to the people. We have said that these must be discussed widely in our society. We have noted the objections from some sections of civil society to the current version of the bill and have said that we should continue to engage on these matters. We also received a report from a committee we set up regarding the State Capture Commission recommendations. The task team that's led by Comrade Jeff Khadebe gave us a report on this. The meeting welcomed the work done by the subcommittees of the NEC on the various findings and recommendations of the Commission. The NEC endorsed the government's response to the Commission as submitted to Parliament on the 22nd of October as a comprehensive plan to ensure that state capture never happens again. We also took time to discuss the issue of local government coalitions. We had a very useful discussion on coalitions that are taking place at local level. Our previous and more recent experience of coalitions showed that they tend to contribute to instability in councils, the NEC reaffirmed its principled approach towards coalition government. This is based on the need to advance the achievement of our manifesto commitments, particularly to build local democracy and service delivery, but also to improve accountability to the citizens of our local governments. The NEC welcomed the report on preparations for the 55th National Conference, which, as we all know, will be held from the 16th to the 20th of December. We want to thank the tens of thousands of ANC members who gathered in their branch general meetings to elect delegates to National Conference and to nominate people for election to the NEC. Some branches also took time to discuss the substantive issues that will also be discussed at our conference. In the coming weeks, a number of our branches will continue discussions on all these substantive issues before the National Conference takes place, including organizational renewal, constitutional amendments that were also presented here, and the ANC strategy and tactics and the program of transformation. As we have observed, this National Conference will be a moment of great significance for the African National Congress and our country. It will demonstrate the ANC's internal democratic processes at work and affirm the commitment of ANC members to renewal, to unity, and to rebuilding our organization. We also welcome the update report on the work of the Renewal Commission on the proposed vision and program of the ANC for the next 10 years. The proposed vision for 2032 allows us to look beyond the issues of the present position of our movement for the South Africa and the world that we want in the future. On international matters, as this NEC, we extend our congratulations to the people of Angola and the MPLA on the celebration of the centenary of the late President Antonio Agostinho Neto. As one of the founders of the MPLA, he was an internationalist who supported the struggles of oppressed people across the continent, and in particular, the struggle against apartheid in Namibia and South Africa. The NEC welcomed the agreement reached between the government of Ethiopia and the Tigray People's Liberation Front as a first step towards resolving the devastating conflict which started in November 2020. We will continue to support efforts to ensure that the talks pave the way towards a lasting solution to achieve peace, stability, and development in Ethiopia. We pay tribute to President Obasanjo and President Kenyatta, as well as our own former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka for helping to facilitate these talks here in South Africa. We have noted the critical issues before COP27 that's taking place in Egypt, where our delegates and Minister Barbara Creasy are at present engaged in talks there. We have reaffirmed ANC policies and those of government that developed economy countries must honor their commitments to reduce emissions and to pay for mitigation, adaptation in developing economy countries. It further confirmed our commitment to an energy mix that takes into consideration our natural endowments, as well as the developmental needs of the country in the context of a just transition. A just transition that should leave no one behind as we transit towards green energy, and that workers and communities that are affected by this transition are not left behind, as we also develop new sectors of our economy, as in the green hydrogen economy, the electric vehicles, as well as greater generation of our electricity from mixed sources. As this NEC, as we are a month away from the 55th conference, we will need to report to delegates on the implementation of the mandate that we were given 5 years ago at the 54th National Conference. This report will be greatly enriched by the discussions that we have had here, and our report will reflect that while this NEC has had to confront serious challenges, we can point to several achievements and progress in a number of areas. At the same time, we will need to acknowledge our shortcomings and our failings as the National Executive Committee, as we also point out some of the areas where we've been able to make progress. We must ensure that our political and organizational reports are frank, critical, and comprehensive so that we can empower delegates to develop a program that takes our movement into a new phase of renewal and rebuilding. As this NEC, we're now at the final close of our term. Our task now is to ensure that we have a successful 55th National Conference that takes forward the National Democratic Revolution and rebuilds the ANC as an effective agent of fundamental social transformation. I want to end by thanking all NEC members who were able to execute their tasks either as deployees, NEC deployees in our provinces, or as members of our various NEC subcommittees. We were able, during these 5 years, to show a great deal of commitment in our work and to the people of our country. Lastly, I'd like to thank our comrades in the SGO who've been working very hard to make sure that we prepare for this conference, including in the TGO. And I'd also like to thank our comrades in the provinces who've been making sure that our BGMs take place, our provincial leaders, and indeed our regional leaders as well, and branch leaders, and indeed also thank our branch members for keeping the ANC alive and making sure that we do advance to the 55th conference as we are doing so. So thank you very much and good night.
All right, those are live visuals there from Nasrec. The President has just delivered that closing address at the last NEC meeting for this term, ahead of that 55th National Conference, where new leaders will be elected. Now, Ramaphosa says they've dealt with critical challenges of the renewal process in their meetings. The meeting has also looked at how they need to respond to the needs of the people with the rising cost of living that we constantly talk of. On this, the NEC has noted the interventions of government. The meeting then reaffirmed the resolution to deal with unemployment, poverty and inequality.